Okay. Well, thank both groups, and just kind of taking a look at this right now, this whole awaken a sense of enlightened responsibility. How doing that, sustaining it, broader paths to making this happen. As you step back, what is the insight in this whole, this was a recommendation that we work in this area, or that if we're going to release energy, we have to work in this area. So what's the underlying insight here with both of these components and with this one? Oh, shoot. Okay, sorry about that. Someone from the world wanted to call me.
I thought that was the sound of everybody. I thought that was the sound of everybody thinking really hard to come up with answers to your question.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Yeah. Okay. So yes, have a go at it. What is the insight in this recommended approach?
I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm finding this in the last decade, there is increasing numbers of people who are just adopting what someone else says or thinks, as opposed to doing their own thinking. So we got a huge number of people in the world who are biologically awake, but consciously asleep. So for me, this is about, shifting that proportion.
Okay. Yes.
Kevin, as you were speaking, the word belligerent came up to me. I have some family members that are highly belligerent in their stance. I might call them unconscious. They, however, feel like they are voicing the strongest, most reasonable, you idiot, don't you get it kind of stance. And I don't know what to call that. Is that unconscious? Is that willfully choosing another, what I think is destructive? So I've been wrestling with this a lot. I'm complete.
There was a wonderful article in The Atlantic that a friend sent me about the impact of social media and divisiveness in our society and these belligerent stands that we end up taking. So there's something that's not happening around our ability to have common information, values.
There was an article recently about the website they put up in Taiwan for social deliberation, which has no like and dislike button. You can comment, but you can't like and dislike. So, so yeah, you can voice a comment, you can voice your opinion, perspective, etc. But there is no voting through like and dislike, and they've discovered it expands the conversation.
You reminded me, of something I read. It's called the 90/9/1 rule. And it's related to social media. And so the 90/9/1 rule finds that in any social network or online community, 1% of the users generate 90% of the content, 9% of the users create 10% of the content, and the other 90% of people are mostly silent observers. So 90% just adopting what the 9+1% are either generating or creating.
Okay.
Oh, I think comes back to the challenge of deliberation. How do we promote so that it's not a question of either or, it's not a question of my perspective and your perspective, but it's actually creating a process, creating more opportunity for simple exploration of perspective.
Mhm.
I reading the book, The Overstory, really caught my attention. He raises the question, what is it that makes people not notice the obvious? And the answer at one point in the book is other people. His point being this thing we're looking at, this triangle, this social process builds commonality. That's what it does. And as a species, we're very good at sort of fitting in with what those around us are doing. And we have the capacity to deeply believe we know what we're doing and that what we're doing is right, but really we're responding to signals of those around us. And so in a moment of transition like this, as you look at all those arrows, one insight for me is it's pervasive, and what we're talking about is finding ways to alter this massive sense of commonality to respond to some different signal. But getting back to what Kevin said, whether you go with Otto Scharmer or Echo Sib or whatever like that, the belligerent people we run up against are an important part of our species. I don't know where to go. Anyway, I am complete.
I do recall in reading Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind, the real push he made for being open, those of us who don't consider ourselves belligerent, and you don't get it, idiot. Although I know I own a fair amount of that. But the push to be open to what are the values people are holding dear that keep them in that particular stance. And that they're holding valid values that others are willing to hold a lot less lightly. I mean, a lot more lightly, a lot less strong, more lightly. Anyway, I'm complete.
Okay. Well, I'm going to begin to wrap it up. Is there a last comment here? Okay. Okay, Michelle, I'd like to invite us to take a look at everything we've done. So kind of just pull it back so we can see to date all of our work. And take it over. Okay. Oh, Jim, have you been? Is that it? Okay, we've been doing some consolidation. And we have one more left. Just we are aware we still have H. But before we move on to H and finish that part, we want to pull back and just say, what has this journey been about? What are we discovering? You could be answering any of these questions. What are we discovering? And we need some feedback. Jim and I and Lauren need some feedback on kind of where, I think it's where we go next, how we go next with this. We can complete it, but before we just kind of completed it and then stood back, we wanted to get a little bit of a sense of where we go next. how we go next. Who's going to go next with us? Some of those questions. And just it's kind of like we're all in the woods here, and we know we've got one more little place to explore, but just begin to get our imaginations around also the next step of this. So just I'm going to give us 1 minute to ponder that ourselves for yourself. And then insights into that next step. And we deeply appreciate all of this. Is a strong core that we've built, and you're coming back here, so that's good. I'm gonna be quiet for 1 minute. Okay, this and what you're about to do next is ask questions or your insights. We'll just leave it open. But I'll continue with popcorn just when you're ready to speak. But I'd like to hear from each of you if possible also. So with our time here.
Jan, where my mind went was a comment that Jim had made a few sessions ago about his wife's comment about the question. And so one of the things that has stood out to me is this is a complex question, and yet it's a really important question, which I've come to appreciate more as we've gone through this process. And that we've had the sort of, it's a very odd privilege, but the privilege of going through COVID and going through Ukraine as examples of things that have worked or have not worked, or have affected the way we see our society. So I sort of went to the basic impetus more than the answers to the impetus.
Thank you.
For me, I joined some session last year to do this consensus workshop, then the triangle. I was thinking there is a lot of things outside which need our attention and to do something. But for me, I keep asking myself that my energy is limited as well, of course. So what specific thing I can choose from all those complicated things, so I can focus on something of some of it, so I can continually paying my attention and focus to do something. And I like the question that's who is gonna go with us. I would like to rephrase the question as who is gonna go next with me, so that I can, if I want to do something, I want to find some partners to do those things with me. Who could be these people? I'm complete. I do appreciate the whole process and the whole journey. Something become clearer and clearer, but something is even more unclear for me, which is good. That will open another door for me to explore. Now I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah.
I'm Yahui. Tonight's discussion recalled me what I have experienced later this evening. I just returned from the field trip meeting with 3 local organizations. They are struggling to work with the, some disadvantaged families and with their kids. Yeah. So I thought the discussion, not only today's, also includes previous sessions, becomes becomes an internal campus for me to navigate what situation and people I have encountered, what destiny they are facing, and also how could we work together to become a better self and also contribute to a better society. So this is what I have experienced right now. But actually, after discussion, I could make sure that I will totally forget all these jargons and terminologies. It's not easy to absorb. But I thought there's some kinds of codes will imprint in my heart. Yeah. And they will evolve if I keep myself daily calls from members like you. Yeah.
Henry, are you there?
Pardon?
It's connecting.
His audio is not here yet.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. Excuse me. Someone else.
I'm struck by Michelle's comment about where does this lead me and what does it lead me to do?
With
And I'm percolating on that.
And yeah, I feel like I keep shifting so quickly between each and every major triangle and then the subsets. It feels like this has illustrated in greater depth that what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it is moving my local community forward. And in collaboration or partnership or in connection with all of you, I feel like it's a greater concentration of energy connecting all of us worldwide. It just feels so esoteric. I just like, I'm going to keep my feet on the ground for sure. Keep doing and keep letting my mind expand. That's what it feels like for me. And, you know, keep hanging out with you guys. It's really fun. It's very stimulating. And I feel like I keep expanding. I'm complete with that rambling.
Two insights for me, and that point to the what next. The first is the question, you know, the function of asking big, bold questions. And the insight there is a good question enlarges context, opens up possibilities for new behaviors, directions, decisions, action, etc. The other insight is the function of vision. You know, vision unifies. We've always known this. This is why important, substantial conversations begin with vision, because it unifies and pulls together all the different threads, including the conflicting, belligerent, etc., etc. You know, and people at the end are astonished that we achieved that without any blood on the floor. Now, so and the next step, the way to, is about using both of those, you know, for people to engage in conversations. My colleagues over on this side of the world no longer talk about strategic planning. You know, the phrase we use is conversation archetypes, and visioning is one of these archetypes. There's a preponderance of conversations on the how, you know, the problem solving, as opposed to the visioning. And I'm done there.
Well, as a crock-pot thinker as opposed to a microwave thinker, meaning takes me a long time, I go really slow for stuff to soak in and marinate and come to being done or near there. This is the conversations we're having are extremely mind expanding and exciting and creative. You know, I'm loving that. But what do I do with the minutes, the limited minutes I have in any one given day? I get really lost in the complexity. I'm really struggling with what's a simple approach to figuring out the do. And as Michelle said, and with who, the do with who. Oh, not there yet. Still percolating. And I'm not even sure what this work reveals to me about that yet. So.
Okay.
One of the thoughts that occurs to me is before COVID, we planned a sustainability tour in Cuenca. And it seems to me that so much of what we've talked about is the need to awaken people to the urgency and the challenges of our earth right now. And there's probably lots of, I think what all these arrows show is that every part of the triangle needs to be activated and is a source for momentum towards change. But for me, the part that I can do are the small things that help people look at what is possible and what is needed, like the sustainability tour we were going to do. So I'm struck by the fact that I need to call our little planning group together again. We could have done it for Earth Day, but I just wasn't, I forgot about it. But it's a little way to have a difference. And I think the work that's being done in Denver is such a prototype for how to work in a neighborhood and in a community. And I hope that it gets publicized and broadcast as ways that we could work in our local communities.
Okay.
Or replicated across the globe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a new question just came into my mind that we're talking about awakeness, something like that. Sometimes I was wondering if people are ready to be awakened. You know, that's when they are awakened, how what kind of skills or capabilities that they can handle after being awakened. Did we or do we have anything to prepare ourselves to support? I found people that, especially some people are awakened people around, then these people are trying to, you know, call out for human rights, but they don't even have equal possibility to get job. How they can just ask for human rights? How they can make money to feed themselves?
Yeah.
So that question make me feel like a struggle. Should I poke or not?
Yes.
Very good. Very good. I'm going to leave space open if the few that haven't responded yet want to add a piece to this. So, Pat or Evelyn or Larry, Jim, any other
Well,
pieces? Yeah.
For me, I'd really like to look at all 8. Now that we've done the triangle work on all 8, we've not ever done anything to look at the 8.
Yes. Okay.
We've looked at the 8 one at a time. But we haven't really asked the question of what, if you look across the 8, what does that say? Because I think it will reveal some leverage points that if we think about then those leverage points, what is already being done or what could be done relative to that. The question Michelle just raised about one of the things about awakening people is a lot of the people say no thank you. I'd rather go back, I'd really rather stay asleep. And so it can be a risky venture doing awakenment. It's not just, yay, I've been awakened response. But the other side of it is the equipping question of, how do you help once people are awakened? How do you help them to handle all that new input, et cetera, that's coming in? Anyway, that wasn't what I wrote. That was just that was something else that came to me. I think we got to look at all 8 in order to start thinking about what does that reveal that would be critical areas that we're already working in or critical areas I could work in.
Okay.
For me, this is Evelyn. As we looked at the 8 as we were going along, what really struck me is that when we ask these questions, we need a structure to point to where we see things that could emerge, that answer the questions, that are in this part of society that we could work. It's like the structural part of using these triangles was just like it has before. open new ways of talking and new ways of thinking about different questions. And so that was really very, very helpful. For me, I feel like we have this big question, but we talked around it. So that although we have these 8 points, I guess the question of where are the leverage points? Where are the whistle points? What are the places that if we touch them, it will help break it open. It'll help break it open. It'll help break it open. And that's sort of, where do we need to go next? And how do we do that?
Yes. Okay. Pat? And you can pass if you want, but just to make sure you have some.
I'll pass for now.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all. Did anyone, Jim, did you want to say
Yes. Let me share my screen here.
okay.
So this is the work we've done on plotting, but I want to draw our attention over here in the corner. See if I can bring this up large.
The diagram?
Yes, this diagram here. This is a very old diagram in the history of the institutes that Jan and I had this conversation. That's why it says Jan and Company here. But we ask ourselves that we found ourselves in the situation, or find ourselves in the situation, where there are many initiatives going on, doing wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this pervasive sense that they're not quite getting to the horizon. That we're not really getting to where we need to go. Other way to say that is a pervasive belief that the main block to a sustainable future is our species. Our inability as our seeming inability as individuals and organizations and communities to really embrace what's going on out here beyond the horizon and deal with it. Hence, and to be happy with doing what we're doing, helping organizations sort of get a little ways forward. So what we tried to do in this initiative is get ourselves to step out of all this stuff we're doing and ask ourselves a big question: what will it take? And we came up with 8 approaches, we're calling them. Then our second step here, what we call the plotting, we've been trying to bring that down and ask ourselves the question: where does what we've seen out here, where does what we've seen out here fit? Where does it tie into the social connections and relationships we're part of? Knowing we have to get to the question, and as so many of you said in our reflection, we're all thinking, well, what is this telling us? How to shift and change improve our practice? James wants to redo her sustainability field trip and so forth and so on. And so then our third question then is, that's what we don't know. What that third question is. It does seem as though, well, so that's, I guess my thought or my insight. How do we, is this kind of journey, and it been an interesting journey. It's interesting to me that in the midst of our conversation, the one we haven't worked at yet is called Rebuilding Shared Understandings We Need. Interrupting the flow of information while keeping us current on what's known, conversing together past difference and conflict, re-examining assumptions, beliefs, and values and identities courageously, and maturing our ability to understand and navigate complexity.
Ah,
I really appreciated what Michelle and Yahweh said. And I want to come back to this drawing, this little arrow down here.
mm,
For the most part, we're very courageous people, and there's millions like us. And for the most part, us courageous people are focused on what are we going to do to respond to what's going on. But this question here, what will it take to keep going long enough to actually make a difference? What's the support we need? What's the, I mean, I think I've been really inspired listening into the work that's happening with ICAI and their focus on empowering all the ICA organizations. And it's been thrilling also to connect in with our colleagues in Asia and grasp how much that region has been connected. And I remember from an early conversation, a comment that Larry Philbrook made, where he said, in this region, we decided to focus more on community and less on organization. I can tell from the look on his face, he doesn't remember making that comment, but.
Oh, I believe it.
Anyway, I don't know how to raise that question. And I guess coffee is kicked in and kicked back out. I'm more than complete.
Jim, can you go back, or Michelle, share the screen again one last time? And like the triangle up here, the third, so the upper row and the first triangle, we've got the aims and the chart, and then, yeah, can you bring that one into focus? I think when we started plotting, this is what I thought we would get. And some of you also mentioned that, you know, the leverage points. We were looking at where there was congruence about things. And so this is 3 of the different approaches. It isn't all 8, but it was 3 of the different approaches in terms of maybe help illuminating or creating, you know, a focal point again. I jokingly said we're 10 people or 15 people that are trying to redo summer 71. We're 72. That was a couple thousand people, you know. So here we are, a bold group in terms of the current leverage points and how that might inform us about some key actions. And I still hold that as one possible outcome. The other possible outcome to me was to begin to say who on the planet is doing these different 8 approaches, that we might be able to, I mean, pull it together or begin to be, there's this group, oh, what's his name? Anyway, he's pulling together approaches to do environmental work incredible database of what to do. Well, maybe we created a database on how to release energy. And what were some of those technologies or continue to work. So that was another thought in terms of doing some of this. Also, a side piece has been not a side piece. To me, one of the biggest pieces has been getting to know all of you more and knowing what are we doing in different places. Which I think is part of that research question is how do we, again, have the network to share what we're doing. We've highlighted a couple here, the environmental work, but the community development work. Kevin, last week, he blew me away with some of what you all are focusing on. So that was also an incredible place. And then to ask the tough questions also, both Yahweh and Michelle asking, so I'm awakened, now what? Or what is, what is really happening to my heart here? And is that what I want it to be happening? So I think we're quite, next Tuesday we could go and meet again if we wanted to and keep working, but we want, as someone helping putting these pieces together, I just wanted to make sure we were in touch with all of you and where we wanted to go with this. And and I appreciate, stepping back and looking at all 8 now after we got together, and maybe we quickly do the last one, H, and then step back if we wanted to do this again another time.
Mm-hmm.
I just know we're all busy, and I don't want to make assumptions on your time also. And so, but we're also quite, I'm quite pleased to, for whatever reason, Jim and I and Lauren seem to have a commitment to keep moving this along.
Jen, if you would just keep issuing the invitation,
Okay.
then you'll.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. We'll keep doing that. Should we say what's next Tuesday? That's the 26th. Tuesday seems to be a time when we've kind of gravitated that the most of us, or at least this core group, and can continue to move forward. Does that work for people? Tuesday the 26th. Okay, I see some heads, and we'll keep, as you said. Thank you, Catherine. I just kind of needed to hear that. We'll keep it doing the invitation. We just that's good. Thank you. And it's now, late for some of us. We could just
Early
finish,
for some of us.
and early for some of us. And we could just quickly finish up the last 8 and then next time, but I think maybe not. There is value in just looking at each piece. And so we'll, yeah, okay. Not try to do that. And we keep, in between times, Jim and I and Lauren talk and keep moving the bar in terms of what this is. And so we'll, if anyone wanted to be more part of that conversation, there's an openness there too. Just let us know that. Okay, Jim, any closing? We'll see whoever wants to. We'll issue an invitation for next week again. And okay.
I'm really fed and cared for by the little comments that come out in these sessions. I'm really struck at the moment, whoever said this thing about the 99 and 1 rule. And I found myself, and that along with the comment about sometimes when you try to wake people up, they get belligerent. And I was thinking to myself, it's important that we own and appreciate our own consciousness, and not let it go esoteric, and not have it make us be mean or uncompassionate about other people's consciousness. And there's a little theme in the thing about taking naps and stuff. I don't know if that's really the key. I was telling Michelle at the beginning here, there's a bird. We have a orchid tree in our front yard, and there's a bird. It's been in that tree every night singing all night long. At least, and he's got at least, I was listening once and I counted, he's got at least 12 different songs that I'm saying he, that's just patriarchy, but the bird's got at least 12 different songs, and it's just reminds you, look at this, look at this. Anyway, so I would also encourage us to continue to share those little tidbits, the little bits and pieces that you're running into that are drawing you forward, and by sharing them can draw all of us forward in this fine journey. Like, I really want to know how that ICA sustainability project is going. But not today, but
And you can send it as little notes throughout the week if something comes up, or you find an excellent website or something like that that helps illuminate. Yes. Okay. Well, wherever you're at in your journey, and all the people that you touch during this coming week, we intend to be part of the open heart, and to be there, and to stand in solidarity with the incredible pain that's on the planet, and we be open to that, those emotions also, and to just the complexity and richness of the world. So take care. Yeah, we'll see you
Take care.
Take care.
Bye,
Good night.
everybody.
Good
Take care.
night from here.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Great article, Sunny. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
And I'm happy to say a word about naps next week.
Oh, I discovered naps during COVID. I never took a nap before in my life. But I discovered in COVID, when you get overwhelmed and your eyes start to close, that's a hint. You should just go ahead and take it. Go ahead and take a 10-minute nap, and then you can get back up and be functional again.
It's kind of like holding your hand over the open flame of engagement. Every now and then, because you got to take it off for a minute. You're not going to come back.
Can you be so sure it's not a hint to ask you go back to sleep?
Well, sometimes it's that too. I do, because I have my Fitbit, it tells me how long I sleep at night and what kind of sleep I have at night.
Yes.
And so if I didn't get any sleep last night, then the nap hints are a little different. But being overwhelmed by what's going on in my life in this moment, or in the world in this moment, those are very clear, because I'm sitting here working away and suddenly or Evelyn comes in and says, you know, your head is backward and your eyeballs have rolled inside. So then that's a hint. Anyway, thank you, everybody.
If I lie down to sleep,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
my care wakes me back up. It's like I can't sleep more than 20 minutes, unless I, like Larry, I didn't have sleep the night before. Then I might go a couple hours.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Generally, my brain
I
is
rarely sleep.
okay,
more than 20
ready to
minutes.
re-engage, right back.
using perhaps outmoded Christian technical theological language, what we're talking about is the conviction that God loves you. That is the conviction that what's happening in reality is exactly what needs to be happening, and the care you're getting and how you're participating is exactly what's needed. Of course, the complexity there is it leaves a lot of attitude, a lot of latitude for us to have to decide exactly if we're going to get up or lay down or what. And that complexity is part of the love of the universe for us too. I
Well,
think.
I love the saying I heard this last week that when you decide what's best to do, what's best for you, it is absolutely 100% always what is best for everyone else and the rest of what is.
Oh,
And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to take that under due consideration.
Significant
There you
use
go,
of the
due
word,
consideration. That's the rub.
significant word use of the word
due
best.
consideration.
Yes.
All right, take care, and I will
Right.
see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Jim, are we, yeah, gonna take
Leave.